facts. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
The views and opinions expressed on Trudging Together are solely those of the host, co-host, and our guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any organization, fellowship, or other entity, and definitely not your boss, your neighbor, or that one guy in your home group. The content of this program is not intended to replace medical, psychological, or professional advice. If you're looking for that, please seek guidance from qualified professionals who spent way too many years in school. What you'll hear here is based on lived experience, recovery journeys, and the occasional bad coffee-fueled joke. Trudging Together is not affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. We are simply people sharing our stories and walking this path together, one day at a time. Thank you for joining us, and remember, recovery is serious business, but that doesn't mean we can't laugh along the way.
Sober Saturday. Sober Saturday. I got my running backs mixed up. I thought our main running back was coming back today, but he's not. Oh, well. Oh, well. So, you may not know this, but my last name is Miller. Miller in the house. And, yeah, I'm wearing a shirt. It says Miller on it. And my grandkids are, where'd you get that? Yeah. It's a little too warm for it, though. All right, so I'm going to turn on a fan. My number one fan. Had it for a very long time. You want to see my number one fan? Here, I'll show it to you. I have a lot of followers, but that is my number one fan. All right, there we go. So today's reading, I've never read this before. Well, I don't know that I've read it out loud. I've read it. All right, so what it was is today's reading comes from the Daily Reflection. Happiness Comes Quietly, but I went and looked this up, and it's the story about Dr. Bob and his spiritual quest, and I thought that would be very interesting to read. I'm not sure that we're going to get through the whole thing. I'm not sure yet, but we're certainly going to try. We're certainly going to attempt to try and get through the whole thing. So I'm not sure if chat is working. We got people showing up. Yep. Watched a live action of Lilo and Stitch last night. I liked it. I would recommend it. I had to sit through Wicked about 2 months ago. I will not watch Wicked 2. No, they can watch that with her mom. I ain't watching it. But it was funny because in it I remember from the first movie that the social worker was a pretty big black guy, but he was also an undercover FBI, right? Well, they separated these two, and in the beginning of the movie, I wrote my friend Amber. I'm like, hey, where's the black guy? He's supposed to be playing this. I mean, I was expecting Terry Crews. I'm like, this would be perfect, but they separated the roles. He ended up coming in a little bit later. And why am I telling you this story? Because I thought it was really cool of my friend not to blow it for me. Thank you, Amber. Okay. Sometimes our friends are 2 steps ahead of us. And I'm like, she could have told me, but she didn't. And so thank you for that. Oh, so the cool things in our lives, right? All right. I'm going to do what I can, but okay, wait a minute. Seems like, okay, here we go. I'm going to start right there. That's what we'll do. Right about there. Right there. I'm not going to fill up the beginning of the show here with much because there's a lot of reading to be done. So we're going to go ahead and get to Dion's Daily Funnies. Let's get to those so we can get started with that. Have a little bit of laugh before we get started with our day. What is Forrest Gump's Facebook password? 1 Forrest 1. You shouldn't kiss anybody. You shouldn't kiss anyone on January 1st because it's only the first date. Yep. What does a house wear? A dress. A dress. Is it has an address? A dress. I didn't get it until I said it out loud. Then I got it. My wife told me I was average. I think she's mean. What time is it? I don't know. It keeps changing. One more. I'm thinking about getting a new haircut. I think I'm going to mull it over. Mullet. Got the grandkids this weekend. All right. They got up a little early, went stomping around upstairs. See, these things are learning experiences. So I had to, when it comes to my grandkids, I don't punish them. What can Grandpa do? Really, though? What can Grandpa do? Nothing. See, they don't see me as this guy that's mean, that doles out punishment. No. Every time, like this morning, and they did really, really well. I'm very proud of them. Right? They woke me up, which it's not good to do. Okay, it's just I have weird dreams. Sometimes I have violent dreams, and I wake up very weird. And when I'm woken up suddenly, because it's pounding above me sets off my PTSD. And if I'm awake doing whatever, I can get through it pretty quick. But when I'm sleeping, it's different. But anyway, the point was when we were done talking, is I told him, this isn't punishment. You know that, right? I'm not punishing you. You're not in trouble. You don't even need to feel guilty. I just ask that we change. That's it. Is that fair? Yep. Sure is, Grandpa. Yeah. That's it. All right. But it's cool being Grandpa because I get to do that stuff. As a parent, no. As a parent, it doesn't quite work that way. All right. So good stuff. Welcome to the Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. I am your host today and the foreseeable future. If you ever want to come join me on the Daily Trudge, just let me know. I'll bring you on. Right. I will warn you now, though. You're going to feel a little exposed. All right. Yeah. That's all right, though. This is a safe space, man. People don't come here and I'm not popular enough for people to troll. All right. If you're here, please say hello. See, that humility in my life keeps down the popularity, but it keeps the right people away. Right. But if you're here, please say hello, whether watching the live or the rewatch. Now, all we really get for Dr. Bob in his spiritual experience is that it took him like 1.5 years before it happened for him. I think it was either 1.5 years or 2.5 years that he said that alcohol hung out with him. Let's find out. The first story in the back of the book for the stories, right? I did not get over my craving for liquor during the first 2.5 years of abstinence. So 2.5 years before his craving for liquor was removed. But then he goes on to say, in no time was he yielding because he was working with other alcoholics. Now, work with other alcoholics saved him during that 2.5 years. And Dr. Bob would go on to give away his services for free. All right, so this is out of AA. Dr. Bob and the good old timers. They were going to add the bad old timers too, but yeah, they decided not to. I don't know. What's the difference? What is a good old timer? All right. Good old times. It's just a play on words. That's what it is. Page 308. This is called His Spiritual Quest. Dr. Bob was a man in search of God, and it was in this area that he, like Bill Wilson, was probably among the least conservative of men. This is not remarkable when we consider that New England, politically and materially conservative as it was, still fostered many of the new thought philosophies and the mind cure religions mentioned by William James in the varieties of religious experiences. The book, though not popular among Akron's AAs, was a favorite of Dr. Bob's. All right. I'm going to turn off this fan because you can probably hear it and the heat is off now. So, all right. I'll make it a little bit quieter for you. For you folks on the other side, it is possible to theorize that Dr. Bob's search began earlier, but according to his own account, it started when he first contacted the Oxford group in 1933. So Dr. Bob was searching for, but we already kind of knew that. Paul S., the Akron pioneer, whose brother Dick also joined the problem, said of Dr. Bob, at this time he began his conscious search for truth through a concentrated study of the Bible over 2.5 years before his meeting with Bill. Man, he has a lot of 2.5 years going on, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. Let me mute this real quick. All right, there we go. All right, so 1.5 years of his meeting with Bill, he felt that God had not heard his prayers for this entire period. And Paul, and he could not blame him. He felt that he was undeserving of any consideration. I feel this one. The revelation of Dr. Dobbs' life came when he made his second discovery that spirituality couldn't be absorbed by someone emulating a sponge, but that one might find it in healing and helping to free those afflicted and in bondage. That's you broke your shoulder last night. What the fuck, Michelle? I hope you're okay. I hope you're okay. I hope they gave you some good drugs. Oh, well, no, wait a minute, not for you. Follow the prescription. All right, that's all I'll say on that. I hope you're okay, honey. Yeah, I am really sorry that happened. And I appreciate Dr. Bob saying this because I felt this way coming back into the program. The way I saw it is God gave me a really, really good life. And I took a big dump on it. He gave me marriages. He gave me 2 beautiful children. He gave me a good family. He gave me a lot. And I went back out. Well, thank God, God loves me. Thank God. Yeah. I did not feel I was deserving of anything when I got back here. What went through my mind was that my wife and my kids deserved better of me, though. So I changed. This, of course, was what Dr. Bob meant when he said that Bill had brought him the idea of service. Aha. I think the kind of service that really counts, Dr. Bob said, is giving of yourself, and that almost invariably requires effort and time. It isn't a matter of just putting a little quiet money in the dish. Ooh, this is just reinforcing what I've been talking about lately. Okay. Right? Yeah, that it requires, a little quiet money in the dish. That's needed, but it isn't giving much for the average individual in these days, like men, when most people get along fairly well. What did he say? He said his time and effort is worth a lot more than the money he puts in the basket. And I would agree. That's how I feel. When most people get along fairly well, I don't believe that type of giving would ever keep anyone sober. But giving of our own effort and strength and time is quite a different matter. And I think that it is what Bill learned in New York and I learned in Akron and I didn't learn in Akron until we met. Yeah, that was the key. It was the service work that was the key for them. Both of them were already willing to live a spiritual life. But it wasn't until Ebby came along and told Bill, "You gotta give it away, man. You gotta give it away. You can't keep it unless you give it away." That is one of the paradoxes of the program. You don't get to keep your precious sobriety unless you give it away. Give it away, give it away, give it away now. Try to remember if I'm supposed to meet with my sponsee today. I hope not, because we meet at 2. All right. Anyway, in another way, Dr. Bob's experience differed from Bill's. He had to flash a light, the spiritual experience. One member recalled that he did not make any mention of this kind of awakening. Rather, it was spiritual growth that Dr. Bob talked about. In AA, he said his spiritual values changed as time went by. He thought we were all seeking inner peace, said Smitty, but he believed that if you had to work at something in order to be good at it. Yeah, you got to work at something in order to be good at it and practice these principles, right? Now, if they would have put Dr. Bob's nightmare in there with Bill W's, then maybe people wouldn't have made the assumption that you have to have a very quick upheaval spiritual experience. Maybe alcoholics wouldn't have, and I believe that it should be in the beginning. I do, but what do I know? I'm not a publicist. As Dr. Bob himself said, I don't think we can do anything very well in this world unless we practice it. And I don't believe we do AA too well unless we practice it. We should practice acquiring the spirit of service. We should attempt to acquire some faith, which isn't easily done, especially for the person who's always been very materialistic, following the standards of society today. But I think faith can be acquired. It can be acquired slowly. It has to be cultivated. That was not easy for me. And I assume that it's difficult for everyone else. I appreciate him saying that. See, he's like, I assume it's difficult for other people. That was my experience. Now, some of us may have a harder time searching for a higher power. There's always some contention point. All of us go through it. Right? For me, there were some things I wasn't sure I wanted to give up. 6, it wasn't the higher power concept. It was the fact that I wanted to hold on to some things. 6 and 7 were the harder ones for me. Took me a little bit longer because I wasn't sure if I wanted to give these up. There was a part of me that still wanted to burn this world down because I was still kind of angry. All right. So it took me a little, it turned out it was my PTSD. All right. So we demanded, and then right now it is going to talk about the part in today's daily reflection. This is what's in daily reflection today. I really appreciate it. Good morning, Amber. It's good to see you. Go Broncos. We're all after the same thing, and that's happiness. Don't you dare. I don't even know what 6-7 means. I really don't. And I think you told me what it means. Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. All right. We want peace of mind. Oh, is that going to be the score? 6-7. We're going to win 6-7. All right. All right. We want peace of mind. The trouble with us alcoholics was this: we demanded that the world give us happiness and peace of mind in just a particular way. We wanted to get it by the alcohol route. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's what I wanted. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to have peace of mind, but I wanted to do it the alcohol route. Right? And we weren't successful. But when we take time to find out some of the spiritual laws and familiarize ourselves with them and put them into practice, then we do get happiness and peace of mind. Right? And that is because happiness and peace of mind is a dividend to helping other people out. That's the dividend. And that's what he's saying there, right? There seems to be some kind of rules that we have to follow, but happiness and peace of mind are always here, open and free to anyone. I love that one. Now, what did he say? But happiness and peace of mind are always here. And what is here? Here is the now. It can only happen now. That you cannot be happy yesterday or tomorrow. You can't. You can't do that right now. All right. Amber's still going off the 6-7. Exactly. It means nothing and it's great. If it means nothing, then why do people say it? That's what I don't get. But I'm kind of a crotchety old man, so no worries. I'm down for that score, but I'd like to see some big plays. Yeah, me too. Yeah, yeah. If the score is 6-7, I'll be a little disappointed, actually. Even if we won, I'd still be a little disappointed. According to Paul S., there was this period when Dr. Bob's faith wavered to the point that he was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. There was gossip, and some sanctimonious people were citing his alcoholic experience to discredit him and have him removed from the staff at City Hospital, said Paul. Oh, so there were a group of people in AA that tried to get Dr. Bob fired from the staff at City Hospital. So you think that everything was just hunky-dory, everybody got along. Oh, no, there were contentions, man. And who do you think you are going after, Dr. Bob? I bet that didn't work out too well. How can you fire a doctor who's doing everything for free? All right. He went with Paul against doctor orders to see the dean of the Bible studies at Worcester College. We learned there, said Paul, that man will forsake us, but God never will. We learned that what was meant when Christ said, therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest, and thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way, first to be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. I had a hard time reading that, so I'm not even sure what it said. So I'm going to kind of reread it here. But I'm going to read it in my mind. Where's that? They, brother, against thee, leave their gift before the altar and go thy way. So our gifts are to be brought to God. Anyway, first be reconciled with thy brother and then come offer their gift. So it sounds like forgiveness here. Dr. Bob was immediately healed, according to Paul. For 2 days, he spent his time apologizing. There it is. Yes, he was amends. Okay. To the people who had felt were persecuting him. The following Monday, he was back at his practice. So what did he do? He spent his time apologizing to the people that he thought were persecuting him. I went through this in my sobriety. I'm going to tell you what happens when people persecute you. And why did he make his amends? Because he had his own, he was creating his own gossip. He was creating his own division by probably trying to defend himself and getting angry about it, right? I too had to make some amends to some offenders, to some people who were nefarious, and they still are to this day. But I'm not creating division anymore. All right. I'm keeping the name calling away and things like that. So, you know what they said? Thanks. We appreciate that. That was it. You're not always going to get one back, but that's not the point. I'm cleaning my side of the street. It's all that matters. Dad told me that what he was after was spiritual revelation, which would come suddenly to some people, said Smitty. He hoped it would be revealed to him in that way. He worked hard to attain it. Because it didn't come, he thought perhaps he was failing in some way. He studied for at least an hour every day on some religious subject. It was a long, slow process. The net result was that he had a wide and deep understanding of religious and spiritual matters. He had actually achieved the goal, although it was never revealed to him in a sudden manner. Right. So that's great that he's learning all that, but was he applying it? Was he capable to apply it? Did he need more information from a recovered alcoholic? I'm not sure, right? To the day he died, said Dorothy S., he felt that if he had only more spiritual understanding, some way or another, he could pass this message on. I get that. It's often that I ask God for direction. Sometimes I'm like, God, I need the answer. I need the answer. And you know what? You know what the answer he gives me is? Seek. It's always the answer. He's like, no, you're going to have to seek some more. You're going to have to put some effort into this. I'm not going to just give you the answer. The answer is earned at this point, not given. I already received my free gifts from God. Okay. Though Dr. Bob never had sudden revelation, he did describe a moment at his desk to Betty and his son. It didn't last long, he said, but I had the most marvelous sense of peace, which transported me for a time. It was truly the peace which passeth all understanding. I shall never forget it. Okay. I've had one overwhelming short spiritual experience in my life. Actually, it was a spiritual awakening. It was short. Right? I just done my 5th step with my sponsor. 3rd step with my sponsor. I was 18 at this time. 18, 19. I remember. I've asked my wife. Right? And I went to bed. And I always said my prayers before, because I was reading Lord of the Rings at the time. And I would pray because I like to read and fall asleep reading. It just cleared my mind, kept it distracted so I could fall asleep, right? And I was half awake, and the 3rd step started going through my head again. So I'm like, I'm here. Let's finish it. And it was immediate. All of a sudden, I felt like I was being cradled. It was the weirdest thing. I finally, after 18 years of looking, I finally felt safe. I had never felt safe in my life. I didn't know what it meant. No. I had the best night's sleep that night. And then I was able to do my 4th step. At the end, on his last trip to Vermont with Smitty and Betty, Dr. Bob had achieved a sense of peace, the feeling he had worked for. We would sit around the bed at night and talk about it, said Betty. Dr. Bob sought to discover and familiarize himself with the spiritual laws in great part through his reading, which was extensive. Dorothy S., in her conversations with Bill Wilson, said, remember that pile of books he had? And kept trying to move them up to the attic. And he had stacks by his bed and under his bed and everywhere else. Yeah. Sounds like books became his new obsession. Right. I mean, he had books hidden like he did his alcohol bottles here. They were everywhere. He read everything, said Emma Kay. I wish you could have seen the books. His son said to me after Dr. Bob's death, Emma, you take care of them. I don't know what to do with them. I gave the spiritual books to my minister and the medical books to 2 young doctors he helped to get started. He was very kind to those young men when they came out of the service. He read about every religion, said Smitty, not only the Christian religion. He could tell you about Korean, Confucius, even Voodooism, and many other things. He read the Bible from cover to cover 3 times and could quote favorable passages verbatim. How much time we're at? We're at 30 minutes. We might be able to finish this whole thing. Right. Michelle says, I waited for the spiritual experience all my life, AF6. After reading Run Babu Run when I was 12, I finally learned that you had one, I'm presuming. Awesome. And sometimes we don't even realize it's going on, huh? Well, when it's new and you're younger, all right, I tried to read some of his books and couldn't understand them, said Smitty, noting that one titled Tertium Organum. We have some other, there's the variety of religious experience. He loved that. Confessions of St. Augustine, The Robe by Lloyd C. Douglas, who incidentally was a minister with a church in Akron in the 1930s. For Sinners Only, a book about the Oxford group. Oh, that might be an interesting one to read. Basic Teachings of Confucius, Teach Us to Pray by Charles and Cora Fillmore, and Prayer Can Change Your Life. He recommended that I read The Art of Selfishness by David Seabury, and said Betty Smith. He also put a lot of stock in The Greatest Things in the World by Drummond, said Smitty. But Smitty noted his father didn't come on strong about philosophy or religion with others because he didn't want to scare them off. If you haven't figured it out yet, Smitty's his son. So it was taking me a second. They probably said it. I probably read it earlier and just don't remember it. He could see the funny side of it too. I remember once when Paul S. referred to some fellow as being a reflection of Christ, Dad said he thought he might have a little dust on his mirror. Dust on your mirror means that you can't see it correctly. That's what he's saying. A little egotistical, right? The first thing he did was get me Emmett Fox's The Sermon on the Mount. I've heard that's a really good book. I have not read it. And Dorothy S. Once, when I asked when I was working on a woman in Cleveland, I called and asked him, "What do I do for somebody who's going through DTs?" He told me to give her medication, and he said, when she comes out of it and decides she wants to be a different woman, get her to Drummond's. The greatest thing in the world. Tell her to read it through every day for 30 days, and she will be a different woman. Well, I don't know if she was a different woman, Dorothy said, but through the years, I still read it and reread it. Those were the three main books of the time. That The Upper Room and The Sermon on the Mount. Bob went on to explore every type of philosophy and religion. He was pretty careful about recommending those to people for fear it might be disturbing, Dorothy added. If people asked, he'd tell them, but he didn't push books at people. Yeah, and there's a lot of books out now, right? We're not going to be able to get all the way through this. So, sorry, I scrolled a little too far down. Okay, Dad was open-minded about religion, said Smitty, who recalled the period in their lives when their father took him and Sue to different churches. In addition, Dr. Bob used to go to Catholic retreat in Cleveland. He'd go up there with his Bible and his pajamas and a toothbrush and check in for the weekend, said an AA member. He was even interested in people who claim to have extrasensory perception and other forms of spiritual insight, said Smitty. He felt that in far distant centuries, the science of the mind would be so developed as to make possible contact between the living and the dead. This was interest to Doc shared. This was an interest Doc shared with Bill Wilson and the number of early AA members. Together and separately, they sought out mystical experiences. By mystical experiences, they mean mushrooms. Okay. Unfortunately, there's a different story to that, though. But I agree with this. I believe in ghosts. I believe in afterlife. I believe in these things. I believe in reincarnation. Right. So John and Elgie R. recalled in the late 1930s, Doc would talk for hours to a fellow named Roland J., who believed in anything that came down the pike when it came to spiritualism. He could hypnotize you, said Elgie. Roland had studied many faiths in his search for sobriety, but he never did stop drinking until he met Doc. At several experiences, Roland J., his wife Doc and Ann, and Ruth T. in Toledo, Elgie recalled, we had a spiritual seance one night. And an amazing thing happened. I became controlled as it was. I was telling Doc about his father, who was a judge, and I didn't even know anything about it. Oh, kind of weird, huh? You didn't know that stuff was going on. I didn't. Man, these people are weird. Right. So according to this, he was taken over by Dr. Bob's dad, who was a judge, and He didn't know anything about him, but he got it right. So I don't know. Afterwards, when I came to myself, Doc advised me to stay out of crowds. He told me I was sort of susceptible and liable to go into some kind of trance if there was somebody around who was upset. So for a long time after that, I just tried to stay away from crowds because it scared me. I remember another time. Let me check the page here and see how much more we have to go. Okay, we'll be able to get through this. I remember another time Doc and I were sitting in the living room over at Roland's house one Sunday afternoon. Doc was reading the paper. Ann was still smoking cigarettes. Dorothy was out in the kitchen getting dinner, and Roland was sitting in a chair. All of a sudden, Ann started rolling her eyes, trying to get my attention. I looked in that direction, and so help me God, Roland had created the illusion of a cheered on his bed. I didn't believe what I was seeing. When I saw that I was looking, he let it disappear. Doc just sat there and laughed. He believed that was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. A lot of us believed in the spiritual thing, said Clarence. We go to Roland's on Sunday nights. He'd call in spirits. It gets spooky after a while, beyond what we should be monkeying with. Doc backed off too. Yes, it is dangerous to be fooling with that stuff. Smitty agreed. They got away from Roland J when they started to get bad vibrations, he said. They felt it might be dangerous. There was a similar feeling among Akron's AAs. They were all against the spiritualist thing, said Sue. Dad got to feel he was being criticized, and he was. They didn't approve. But I think what really got them was that they weren't included. So they were mad because they weren't invited to the seance. Okay. That sounds closer to the truth. There was this similar feeling among Akron's AAs. They were all against. Oh, I just read that one. Sue also remembered meeting Roland, who told her, I keep hearing a railroad train when I talk to you. That was one of my memories, she said, walking down a railroad track with an older woman like a grandmother before I went into the children's home. I was 3 years old. Ruth G., wife of Ernie G. of Toledo, recalled that she had an illness for which she was trying to get spiritual healing, and that Dr. Bob never once tried to discourage me. He encouraged it. He said that I was being guided to, and Anne said the same thing. And he never once offered me his services or suggested what I could do. He always said, give God a chance. I understand. I agree with a lot of this. God calls you sometimes. God will give you callings. God gave me a calling. It's not an easy freaking calling either. All right. There are things I see in people. I can sit down with you, and it's not going to take me long to figure out what kind of life you led, what kind of child you were. There's certain indicators, there's personality types. I'm wrong every now and again, but it's not often that I am. It's a spiritual thing. It's a gift from God. It's what it is. I tell people, I let people know I have empathy, but it's beyond that. I have insight. I have discernment. I have a lot of things. And I just know when somebody's full of it, and I know when somebody's telling the truth. Mostly. Then there's that codependency part of me that likes to give people the benefit of the doubt. When you start to utilize that, I tend to be wrong. All right. Doc and Ann knew Ruth was getting the spiritual answer, said Ernie, and they'd share books and things. This brought us closer together all the time. Of course, we knew that Doc had cancer long before it was generally known, said Ruth. I thought we caught what I had because we had shared I thought he caught what I had because we had shared a cabin in Minnesota. We went over there and he had just found out. He said, I haven't told this to anyone, but I have cancer. I have suspected it, but they've never been able to find it. Some young doctor had visited him and after questioning him had made the diagnosis. Sometime later, however, Doc said, I think I've got an answer for you, Ruthie. He had found out about someone else who had the same thing I had and about a doctor who performed an operation. Don't you think you ought to try that? This was the first time he said anything medically. And it was after I had been turned away by the best doctors in Cleveland. I had been told by several surgeons that nothing could be done. I told him that I would have to pray about it. He told me to do what I felt guided to do. My Toledo doctor would not write a letter to the doctor in Cleveland, but Dr. Bob did, said Ruth. He saved my life. Dr. Bob also played a part in obtaining at least one spiritual healing, according to Virginia Mack, Dorothy S. sister, who had recommended that Dorothy take Clarence to see Dr. Bob in Akron. The daughter of Mac L, then 4 years old, had been ill since birth. I had driven to Cleveland to take her to Children's Clinic for an operation, said Virginia. Roland had been instrumental in healing some children, and my sister Dorothy wanted me to see him first to give him a chance to the effecting of a spiritual cure. I didn't have any belief in that sort of thing, and I thought she was too sick. Then Dr. Bob came in. This was the first time I had met him. I was impressed immediately. He was a doctor and he knew what he was doing. Meeting him made all the difference. He took my daughter's temperature and said said she was a very sick child. She couldn't even keep water down. Dr. Bob said he thought a spiritual healing would be worth trying. If it didn't work, she'd still go to the clinic. I hadn't met Roland J. before either. He asked about my belief. I told him I didn't have any. He said I should go to a movie and keep my mind off of it so there wouldn't be interference from negative thoughts and they'd be free, have a free field. Excuse me. When I came back 2 hours later, I could hear my daughter laughing before I even got into the house, said Virginia. Then she called out to me, "Oh, Mother, we are having such fun." My daughter seemed completely healed, and she stayed well from then on. Who knows what happened, man? Wow. Fucking wow, man. 2 hours. Spiritually healed. It's just cool stuff, man. Prayer, of course, was an important part of Dr. Bob's faith, according to Paul S. Dr. Bob's morning devotion consisted of a short prayer, a 20-minute study of familiar verse from the Bible, and a quiet period of waiting for direction as to where he that day should find use for his talent. Having heard, he would religiously go about his father's business, and he put to it. LGR recalled, Doc told me that when he had an operation and wasn't sure, he would pray before he started. He said, when I operated under those conditions, I never made a move that wasn't right. Dr. Bob never talked much about religion, but he was a very religious person. Whenever he got stuck on something, he always prayed about it, but it wasn't something he spread around. It was his own private attitude. He prayed not only for his own understanding, but for different groups of people who requested him to pray for them, said Bill Wilson. I was always glad to think that I was included in those prayers, said Bill. And I sort of depended on him to get me into heaven. Bob was far ahead of me in that sort of activity. I was always rushing around, talking and organizing and teaching kindergarten. I never grew up myself. Wow. What a cool story. And we got to know a little bit more, huh? It isn't always what we think. All right. Listen to the differences there. I mean, if you talk like that in AA, people would it run people off. Seances. Should we have a spiritual seance? We didn't know. We're not going to do that. Not without a good guide. All right. So, all right. Well, I mean, what else can I say on it? Thank you, Dr. Bob, for doing everything that you did. All right. Thanks for keeping Bill W. in line. Thanks, Doctor. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. You know I do. Peace out. And keep on trudging.